Let's talk about the elephant. Such a giant, fat elephant in the room. It's that time. It's the elephant in the room, and I also like to say it's just that time of year. It is that time of year because Yoshida put out this article today about third-party tools, and it seems to always come up around Ultimates because that's when a lot of the higher-end raiders in Final Fantasy XIV are prominently displayed in the directories on Twitch and on YouTube videos and stuff. Everybody's watching Ultimate Raiders, and a lot of these Ultimate Raiders use parsers, right? Parsers or any kind of third-party tools that are prohibited by the terms of service. Patch 6.1 and Dragon Song's Reprise, this Ultimate, one video came out which was a world first clear video, right? This was a world's first clear video, and it was the Red Mage perspective, and he was using add-ons, right? He was using add-ons and mods which are prohibited by the terms of service. So this was a video viewed by a lot of people, right? And obviously there's going to be people go, wait a minute, he's breaking the rules. He's using a third-party tool. How come he's not banned? So they probably cried on the forums or reported him, mass reported him to get the guy banned or whatever. So what ultimately happened was that his video got taken down. His world first video, Red Mage perspective, Square Enix took it down. For that reason, because he was breaking the terms of service. And this rather lengthy post on the Lodestone from Yoshida talks about their stance. Now, if you've been a Final Fantasy fan, or you've been playing Final Fantasy XIV since the beginning, nothing has changed. There's nothing in this article that's new. I'm just going to say that. And he even says in this, this post, please note this will be a lengthy post containing difficult technical terminology and may not be of interest to the average player. Moreover, this announcement is meant to be read in its entirety. So I ask that you please refrain from sharing excerpts of this text out of context. Because that's what people do. They take a clip, they take a little snippet of text, and then they make a whole video on it. And they don't consider the entire article, right? So, all in all, this article is a reiteration or a reminder to players that the official stance of Square Enix is to not allow any third-party tools that interact with Final Fantasy XIV and that give you any kind of an advantage, right? That's what they're talking about. That's exactly what they're talking about. Anybody with half a brain knows that's what they're talking about. So as stated, the use of third-party tools is strictly prohibited. Players who are determined to be using third-party tools will have their accounts suspended, permanently banned, repeat offenses. So it's a blanket statement to cover all third-party tools which interact with Final Fantasy XIV to make your life whatever. So naturally people go, well, what about this? Or what about that? Or what about this? Or what about that? And this is where I want to kind of clarify where I stand and what I think Square Enix is trying to tell these small-brained individuals and big-brained individuals, which are under and overthinking the situation. There's a slippery slope. There's a slippery slope with all this. And Blizzard is encountering that slippery slope right now. Once you say, we allow X, it opens the door for all other kinds of things, right? And once you open the door for all these other types of things that could possibly be created with the guise of this is allowed, you have to invest in policing that. You have to invest in infrastructure, in people, and support technology and support frameworks and processes to track it. So if someone comes out with a new piece of software, you got to hire somebody at Square Enix to check it, to see what it does, to do all this stuff, right? And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. So from a monetary standpoint, from just an ease of overhead and just a lack of headache, Square Enix is like, we're just not going to allow anything, right? Because if you say we allow some but not others, Gamers will game the system. And they will say, oh, you said you allowed this. It does that technically, but it doesn't Scooby-Doo. And then they start doing these mental gymnastics to justify what the terms of service will allow. Don't tell me they won't, because that's exactly what they do. They game the system. And it makes the company's life miserable because we got to dance around your trollish mental gymnastics, right? To basically explain what common sense will dictate. Oh, we don't allow that, but you're going to say, well, technically, actually, and then you start dancing around the verbiage and the terms of service. So it makes sense to just ban them all. If you don't allow add-ons, ban them all, right? Now, there's a post like many, many years ago that Yoshida, and I think this is why he's saying don't take things out of context, where he said that he understands that some of these are less harmful than others. So things like parsers don't necessarily give you an advantage. It aids you and it calculates your damage to see how much better you're getting, which in essence is not a harmful thing, quote unquote, but it's still against the terms of service. So people are going like, well, if you use a parser, just don't use it to be toxic and they won't ban you. That's the stance. Even though the terms of service does not say this, people took Yoshi P's quote and they gleaned that from it and said, if you use a parser, then as long as you don't call out your party, you're fine. You won't get banned, right? Until somebody gets banned and then pitchforks. So that's a massive summary of everything, of this defining third-party tools and the use of third-party tools, right? There's more in the article that I'm going to talk about too. But use of tools that allow players to more easily complete content, modification of the UI to display additional information, use of package spoofing tools, and any action or public statements that promotes the use of third-party tools. There you go. You just don't use them. That's what they're trying to tell you here. That's what Square Enix is trying to tell you. Don't use them. It's pretty cut and dry, right? It's pretty cut and dry. Don't use them. And I stated earlier, and I'll state it again, the reason why they do this all or nothing approach is because it's a slippery slope. Because once you start allowing them, once you start making exceptions, once you start opening the door for these things, the floodgates will open and they will have a support nightmare on their hands. There's a reason why companies don't do this. A lot of other companies do the same thing. They're like, no, we don't allow add-ons. We don't allow mods. Right? Because it's a slippery slope. You get that gray area of cheats. There's mods and then there's cheats. Right? And you see where Blizzard is in a bad position. They're trying to come out of the situation they're in. Right? In their latest announcement of their expansion, they stated that they were going to try to update the default UI so you don't have to depend on add-ons anymore. Ian went on record with an interview with Asmongold talking about how that these add-ons, they don't improve accessibility. They actually make it worse. And how designing around that is not a good thing. So how do I feel about all this? I mean, I'm just trying to tell you how it is right now. It's a factual part of the discussion. But how I feel about this opinion-wise, yeah, I want mods. I want them to magically figure out how to police it, and I want them to magically figure out how to allow certain things and not allow others. I like modding stuff. It's fun. I mean, a lot of games wouldn't be here today if it weren't for mods. Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends. Some of the biggest esports titles out there were mods. Right? Team Fortress 2, we talk about those days and how they all stem from Half-Life and how Valve embraced the modding culture and basically spawned whole new games out of it. Yeah. There's some good stuff that can come out of mods, but there's also a lot of bad stuff. Those same games I named, how many cheats are on them? How many exploits? How many wall hacks, right? So there's a double-edged sword. There's a good and a bad with all of these things. There's a good side to modding, and if you open it up too much, you get all the other stuff. Do people still cheat in Square Enix games? They sure do. Do people still do wall hacks and stuff that I just said? Well, they sure do. They sure do. But at what scale? You know, we don't know the answer to that. Except when you get into PvP and you encounter a cheater, which I've yet to encounter, right? Some people have encountered cheaters, and especially at the upper levels of PvP and crystalline conflict. Me being a silver player, I haven't encountered that yet. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist if I don't encounter it. They absolutely do exist. So the way it works today is that Square Enix, they will receive reports and they have to investigate it. It's not an automatic ban. So they got to look into it. So if someone is on a live, I've seen people get streamed like, or get banned like this. If they're on a live stream, they have a parser open and they say, man, this Dragoon really, really did terrible damage. Someone sends them a clip of that, they can get banned. Because that is actual proof that they're using it to be toxic, right? They can get banned for that. But however, if somebody sends a clip of somebody using a parser and they're just playing the game, not doing anything, there's a lesser chance that they're going to get banned. Both of those situations, both of those scenarios are against the terms of service. That's what Yoshi P is saying in this article. All third-party tools, and they have to do that, right? So hacks, mods, and risk of infection from malicious software. They're telling people not to download these suspicious mods because they can hack and take your passwords. That's definitely an obvious thing. Enhancements to the HUD and other UI elements. So I think this is what started all this, is that because the mod that the Red Mage used, I'm pretty sure it was a slide casting mod. And what a slide casting mod is that it puts an overlay on your casting bar and it has a little meter. And if your spell hits that little marker where it is, that means you can move after the cast. We call it slide casting in Final Fantasy XIV. It's a really weird term because it's unique to this game because of lag. So he had a slide casting mod. He was playing Red Mage, so he does a lot of slide casting. So they say, we believe people use the tools to display more information because they feel existing functions are sufficient for tackling high-end duties. They say, in recognition of this, we intend to review the most prominent tools and encourage or discourage their use, endeavor to enhance the functionality of HUD, though it will take some time, blah, 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 blah. So little things like slide casting mods, timers, and things that there's a ton of mods out there to enhance the UI to make things better. A vast majority of these enhancements are things that the game needs. But let's just take a step back for a minute. Just because you think the game needs it and you have the capability of adding it as a mod and the company's stance is that mods are not allowed, doesn't give you the excuse to do it. I know we live in 2022 and everybody thinks just because they can do something they should, but let's just stop it. Just because you can do it, that doesn't mean you should. Just because there is a problem with the HUD doesn't mean you should fix it. I mean, you got the right idea. It's the right intention. Yeah, let's give them some feedback and give them time to do it. It may take them a few thousand years because, they got other things to do. But that doesn't give you an excuse to do it. Just because you think the game needs it, even if it's an accessibility thing, like P3S, even if it's the freaking orange bird of doom. Everybody's like, well, I can't see the fight because blah, blah, blah. You know what? Tough. That's a sign of a bad game, right? A bad design in the game. If you can't see it, they messed up. That don't mean you have to fix it. You can't just take things into your own hands, even if it's against the rules, and say, well, I'm going to fix it because I can't see. No, go play something else. There's some entitled gamers, man. They think that just because they can do it and they need to see and it needs accessibility, that they're going to break the rules to do it. Just don't play the game. It's entertainment. Go do something else. High-end duties and world races. It goes without saying we're aware of world races and high-end duties. As developers, we're proud of blah, 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 blah. But a race should be fair. They're talking about the world first races, right? And it is our earnest wish that participants don't use third-party tools. Indeed, we've only released duties that we have proven can be beaten with the game's standard features. The devs actually have to beat the fight before they release it. With no mods. With no mods. Let's make that clear. This is not like WoW, where they release fights and they don't test them. Been confirmed, they don't test them. They actually have to finish the fight before they release it. which is why Yoshi P was like, hey guys, this is going to take you a while. He's like, Dragon Song Reprise is going to take you a while. All right. We've been making these fights a long time. And we'll tell you, this is going to take you a while. And what happened? Sure enough, Dragon Song kicked the butt of these raiders. They got, man, people got broken. This is the new meme right here. Everybody used to talk about Gordian, whatever it is, from Alexander and like old and UCOB when it first came out. Nah, Dragon Song Reprise got people in tears, got people disbanding, got people doing all kinds of stuff. This is the new meme, right? And they finished it without any mods. Now, if you look at the fight, and I watched a lot of the World First coverage. I watched a ton of it, and if you look at it, you go, they really didn't need those add-ons. Parsers, they didn't need. The call-outs, they really didn't need them, right? Those were convenience things. If you took those out, they could have still cleared. So I don't understand the outrage. I really don't understand the outrage that people have. Those World First Raiders and the people who cleared it in the first week or so, or first 6-7 days, they really could have cleared it without that. So why use it? Is the question. Why do you break the toss to use mods when you really don't need them? Because Blizzard is trying to catch up with Square Enix with modifying the UI. This is the most modifiable UI I have ever used in an MMORPG. You can change and move around every single element. Just about. There's only a small handful that you can't do. And the thing is, people are really focused on what they can't do instead of appreciating what you can do. They're really, really focused on, wow, I need to be able to see this. I need to be able to see that. Wow, I can't see my damage because I don't have any damage meters. Therefore, I can't finish because I can't do my damage meters. It's just something that I think is being blown way out of proportion. Way out of proportion. Here it is. It says, without a doubt, patch 6.11's Dragon Song Surprise is the hardest duty we've ever created. Some may compare it to the unending Coil of Bahamut, UCOB. But taking into account our players' improved skill, the increased number of actions, the more complex mechanics, the latest ultimate entry has the edge. To be able to conquer it in such a short time requires great individual prowess, teamwork, and support, and you can consider this gamer thoroughly impressed. Man, I bet that got some of the people smiling. Because such races are unofficial, we usually limit our involvement to some comments after a number of teams have cleared the duty. By offering our congratulations via the official Twitter account and confirming timestamps, we want to recognize your achievements and contribute to the community excitement. However, if our recognition encourages excessive competition and controversy to the extent that players resort to third-party tools, I regret to say we may have to reconsider making comments in the future. This is telling. This is actually very telling, because this game's philosophy is that hyper-competitiveness breeds toxicity. This is a stance that some people agree with and some people don't, right? Whether you agree with it or whether you're not, that's the game's design. Hyper competitiveness breeds toxicity. If you look at the new Crystalline Conflict that came out, there are purposely designed features to prevent that. You can't talk in chat during a PvP match in Crystalline Conflict. You can't talk in a match. All you can do is preset commands. That's because hyper competitiveness breeds toxicity. That's what Yoshi P believes. So if he's saying here, if we give you too much praise, it's going to be so valuable that people are going to resort to these tools to get all the edge they can to make it happen. And some people encourage that. They want that. That's how WoW is, right? And Yoshi P is like, that's not what our game is about, right? It's two different philosophies. Like I said, you can agree with it, you can disagree with it, but the truth is, that's how they design the game. It's not hard to respect that. It really isn't. It doesn't diminish the gameplay that much for a lot of us if we just respect that stance and just say, okay, we're not going to use any third-party tools because you really don't need them. They're really nice to have. It's like quality of life stuff. You don't need them. Let's be real here. The people crying that you don't need these add-ons. You don't need CACPOD. You don't need ACT. You don't need that to complete the content. No. And you don't even need proof of someone doing it without it to even know that. Because like I said, the devs have to do it. They have to beat the fights before they release it. And that's a big difference. Other games don't have that requirement. Right? They have spot checks. They have QA, QC stuff that they probably do. They have regression checks, but they probably don't fight. They probably don't go through the fight all the way through from beginning to end as if they're, without debug tools or checking for bugs or not God mode or something like that. These guys got to go through the game as a player and finish it before they release it. And if you can do that, you don't need these add-ons. It's just, it becomes a matter of convenience. Data mining and screenshot leaks. Oh, we already know how Square Enix feels about data mining. If you haven't, if you're brand new, if you're coming from another game, you've never played Final Fantasy XIV, these devs hate data mining. They hate it. And they're talking about some of the Dragon Song Reprise screenshots and some of the parts of the fight which were leaked prior to the fight. And this is a great departure from WoW, right? WoW doesn't, I'm not going to say they don't care about data leaks, but they give you guys access to the PTR, which is the public test realm. And you get to experience this stuff early before it comes out. Final Fantasy's not like that. They don't want you to know the fight before it comes out. WoW doesn't care. World of Warcraft doesn't care. They will let you access the content before it comes out. And there's dungeon guides and there's the mods get updated very, very shortly after the fights come out because of that. Right? The DBM mods and all the call out mods and all the other things, the UI mods and all the other things, they get updated so fast because in these alpha tests and in these PTR tests, the content's there. Final Fantasy doesn't have that, right? So people, what they do is that they data mine patch data to try to find something that's not supposed to be there. And in this case, they did. They found the appearance of the raid's final boss in patch 6.08, which was before it came out, right? And there's also some stuff here talking about an inside job that apparently something else came out and they believe it was something inside. So they're investigating that. So it's like crazy, man. It's crazy. They don't want you to do that. Such leaks are utterly unacceptable, for they not only undermine the efforts of the development operation teams, but take away from our players' enjoyment. They're basically saying spoilers suck. Stop spoiling stuff. It sucks. That's what they're saying here. All right. Server emulation. So apparently, some rumors came out that a certain group or groups had access to a private server. That somebody reverse engineered Final Fantasy XIV, created a private server, and they were able to do things and see things in fights that others couldn't see and have an early advantage that others didn't have. This part of the article basically is saying, based on what he knows and what his devs say and what everybody else is saying, that to do so would be a highly, highly unlikely thing. It falls in the realm of impossible in terms of the percentage of probability that someone was able to create a private server just by reverse engineering the data, right? He's saying that things are so specialized and so sparse and so broken. You say broken, but I kind of gleaned that from it. That if you can replicate that, you need to get a job over here because it's that impossible. He says, I apologize for any undue concern caused by these rumors, which themselves were sparked by the aforementioned links. And once again, I assure you that we will conduct a full investigation to prevent this from happening in the future. And then he gives us a thank you and he apologizes for all the bugs in 6.1 because there were quite a few and they're going to work hard. So again, overall, it's a repeat. This is a lot of repeat of their stances. It's a reiteration. Don't use third-party programs or you risk being banned, is what this is saying. If you think third-party tools, this is Bwana talking. If you think third-party tools are required for the game, you need to rethink that stance because they're not. They are nice to haves. They are quality of life changes. The game works without third-party tools. The fights are completable without third-party tools. Even this ultimate is completable without third-party tools. You don't need a damage meter. You don't need any call-out tools. You don't need any UI enhancements to finish this ultimate. It's not World of Warcraft. The fight is not designed that way. Right? And this is not an uncommon thing for a company to not allow mods and not allow third-party tools, especially one coming from an MMORPG. It's not uncommon for that to be a stance. People think it is common. It's not. I mean, people think it is common for MMOs to allow mods because of World of Warcraft, and that's not true. That's actually not true. The game is designed with mods in mind. And that's what he says in this paragraph down here, is that they look at what people want based on feedback. They look at what people are using with these mods and they go, we should incorporate that into the game. So when the game first came out, day one, you could shuffle your UI around, because that's the main thing people want. They want to put their buttons here. They want to rearrange them a certain way. They want their map to be bigger. They want their text to be smaller here. They want certain parts to be bigger than others. The game came out of the box like this. 2.0 came out just like that. And this is stuff that other games need mods to do. So they thought about this. You don't need third-party tools. So stop saying you do. This is Bwana from Bwana.tv. Enjoy the video. Let me know what you think. If you disagree, please tell me why. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.